Hello, Marky Dragon, also known as Marcus Eikenberry in real life, and welcome to another episode of Roundtable for Build an MMO, the unnamed game that you and I are designing. Thank you for joining us. And so, for those of you who are new to the show, what is that? A giant piece of cheese? For those of you who are new to the show, what this is we have been given the opportunity with NeoJack, who is, they are a game publisher. We've been given the opportunity for us to design an MMO that they have on their new engine. And it's a pretty big deal because I don't know that this has ever been done before. And so far, some really neat things have happened. One of the first episodes, we talked about the fact that we wanted player housing. We wanted to be able to, build it ourselves. We wanted to be able to design it. We wanted to have like architect skills and how we manage land and everything. And they turned around and did that for us. Now, there's a lot of other things as well that are going on with the game, and we've been discussing. This is I think the eighth roundtable now, and so a lot of the other things that have been discussed are going to be presented in the short future. So anyway, this is a chance for you and I to build a game we've always wanted to, and so here we go. Today's topic is our characters and death and looting. So let me welcome the guys on the Google Hangout. Hello, everybody.
Hello.
Hola.
Death and looting. Death and looting.
Death and looting. I think this is going to be a fabulous episode. So we've got a few people with us. It looks like we got Tony, we got Yeti Nation, we've got Marcus, who I think that's an apple. Is that an apple core? Oh my goodness, it's an apple
I
core.
have no idea what it is.
Yeah. We got Ink.
Modern art.
We've got Evil Overlord and David with us, and we've got one or two spots free for those of you that are watching. There's a link for you in Twitch for those of you that are watching live, and on YouTube. I hope it's working. I'm seeing errors going on, and it may be grim, but switch over to the Twitch channel if YouTube is puking like it appears to be. So. Let's talk characters. Let's do these in order. Character, death, looting. And so for our characters, let me ask a really simple question. Should we have more than one character on our account?
Yeah.
Most definitely.
Absolutely.
And
I think there should, but they should only be on one side, whether it be good or evil.
oh, like as in factions, like
Not necessarily straight factions. It's just kind of one of the ideas that was thrown out in one of the after shows was having, because the big thing right now is where everybody starts at, and if you have a good side and an evil side, and you don't want them interacting immediately, have it way far apart in different parts of the world. That way, nobody knows what's going on the other side unless you start a second account that just so happens to be evil.
What that just really sparked a really interesting idea. What if there was like two main continents and there was no ship travel right at the beginning, and so these two economies build and grow up, and then we have sea battles. And we try and take each other over.
Are we making a pirate MMO? Because that would be a good idea.
No, but that's just what came to
Part of the
mind.
game.
And no matter how crazy the stuff sounds, we can suggest it because this is our game. Really, is what it's turning out to be. And some of the ideas that we've thought were maybe dumb. People have thought about those and kind of tweaked them just a little bit, and they're brilliant. So, it's just cool. So, anyway,
But yes, characters.
yes, multiple characters. Okay, So now there's some other games that have chosen to do just one, like Shroud of the Avatar says they're going to do just one. And then there's games like World of Warcraft where I don't know what you could have 18 or something like that, some big number.
In Neverwinter you can have up to 5, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Really, I thought it was 3.
I'm not sure. I haven't gotten that game in a good long time.
In World of Warcraft, you can have 10 or 11 per server, 50 of total maximum.
Whoa, 50? Wow. Well, I guess when it only takes you a couple of days to reach top level, you need something else to do.
Well, I wouldn't say that it's, give you something to do. I think it's more the fact, like, for example, when I was playing WoW, I had one character that I was playing by myself, and I had another character that I was leveling with a friend, and then I had another character that I was leveling with other friends. So having the option to have multiple characters just gives the game more playability.
And if you're like me and you want to try, I mean, no, it's not a class-based system, but if you want to try out different skills, then you're going to have more than one character to really get a good feel for how all of the different skills play.
Yeah. At the same time, our characters are going to be what we make of them. And so, it's still not decided yet exactly how all of the skills will work, but the premise is that maybe that it'll be a little bit like the Eve concept where we continue to learn our entire life in the game, and so if we did that, I suppose there would still be a need to people would still want multiple accounts possibly, but maybe it wouldn't be necessary. I don't know. But then there's Evil, who wants to be known as Evil, and the rest of us goodies. Evil, you should have a special title of just Evil.
Well, here's
And then you can be Evil.
In the end, I'll probably end up being a very neutrally played character, but the neutral overlord does not sound good. There's no zing to it, Nobody's going to be afraid of the neutral overlord.
Yeah.
I mean, let me ask you a question, though. I mean, does it make sense to break things faction-wise into good and evil? I mean, that's kind of like a almost simplistic way of looking at the world, really.
Yeah, but there's ever-changing diversity in that. I mean, if there is an alignment system, it makes no sense that Bob the Orc can go deposit his cash at the same bank as Marky. That was a very good point he made concerning that. I mean, you don't want to...
I do not want to bank with orcs. Forget
it. The world's already divided by good and evil anyways. Instead of having like horde, we're all this, we're night elves or some dumb shit like that, just say there's humans, there's other races, some of them are good, some of them are bad. Mm-hmm. Their actions determine that. It just makes sense, if you look at the basic story they've already created, this is already the factions that exist. Whether they're player run or NPC run is now part of the discussion. Does that make sense?
But an evil person doesn't think they're evil. An evil person thinks they're the good guy, and they're just doing evil things. So when you say it's good versus evil, that's like the dark side versus the light side. It's kind of like a childish way of looking at morality. I'd rather say, look, there are some classes that live in one continent, or some races that live in one continent, and other races that live in another continent, and maybe they conflict with each other. But that one of them isn't inherently evil and one of them isn't inherently good. That seems like almost sophomoric, and it's...
No, I'm not saying
good
that
and, good and evil is a perspective. It all depends on who's looking at the situation. So I understand what David's trying to say.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know about you, but when I decide to be evil, I'm very evil.
Yeah, I usually play a good guy unless it's infestation. My motto is kill
Wow.
everyone.
Shoot
So-
on sight, Marky.
Yeah, shoot on sight. Everybody.
Wow.
Especially if they're stupid enough to admit that they're hacking.
Well,
I have lost faith in humanity.
I'll even kill my own clanmates if they're hacking.
Dude,
So-
that Scottish kid was funny. Yeah, I'm hacking.
Yeah.
You turn around, machine gun him.
Yeah, absolutely. No mercy. So, okay.
Well, I
On
mean,
the-
I think the question that you ask about how many characters and per account, we don't have enough information to make the answer to that question. If we don't know how the characters are going to level skill up, what does a fully skilled character look like? Is there room for diversification of skills, or is it eventually everybody will basically have the same skills and everything?
Yeah. Well, and we don't know everything yet, and because we're still determining a lot of these things, and so I suspect that there's going to be a lot of stuff that's going to come out when the Kickstarter appears, and there'll be a lot of stuff that'll be pretty much set in stone by NeoJack that they're working on right now, formulating and putting stuff together. But even at that time, there's things should be subject to change because something new may come into play that makes something else obsolete or just nonsensical and need to be changed. So, okay. Well,
But I'll just say that I enjoy when I join an MMO. I enjoy playing lots of different characters because I will try
Okay.
out each class, level it to midway, just to see what the feel is like and find one that really suits me. And I don't know what that's going to be. In every MMO, it's a different type of class. So I mean, I enjoy playing different characters unless there's something in the game that necessarily removes the joy of having different types of characters. Then I don't know why you wouldn't want to give people the option to have play different characters.
Okay.
Well,
I agree. We should have at
example-
least a couple.
Well, you need to have a couple because, for example, let's say you're in a guild and you don't have a certain person who has a certain ability that you need to clear a certain boss. Then you say, okay, well, let me level this character. I have one that's almost the level we need. It just gives that diversity to be able to mix and match what's needed for certain aspects of the game.
It does allow you to be very specific on skills on a character as well. You may only work very specific skills for that character because I don't know yet how skill gain is going to work. We've talked about a study method that even is passive that happens even offline, and we've talked about another method with crafting or with working with items. That it would accelerate it, and we just don't have all that 100% set in stone yet, so we don't know how that's going to affect it. So, okay, well, you know what? I was kind of thinking one at the beginning, but after this discussion, I actually think that multiple.
Yeah, multiple. I'm into multiple.
Okay. Hello, sir. Are you a troll in real life?
No, it's me. It's your Uncle Stan.
Oh, goodness.
Oh, Strapman. Come on, stop it. Stop.
Okay. So, we got to have a little excitement here. Naked men in their front room. I don't know. Yeah.
Well, that was unexpected.
Yes. Well, not
every show.
necessarily. We get one almost every show. Yes. This is what happens when you open things up to the public. So,
I'm pretty sure it's your own thing, like how you got the mail from Dave.
Pretty sure it's just his fan base.
yeah. Oh, yeah. They're my fan base. I ain't even gonna go there. If they're watching, I don't want to know about it. So, okay, let's continue on.
No cute minions for you.
Oh, gee.
Do we know if there's going to be more than one race or no?
Okay, so there will be humans, and more than one race is possible. It depends on the amount of funding as to what all will be available at launch. And so, the funding really is here, pretty much in place already for making the game. But how much extra things that we add to it all depend on the funding, the Kickstarter campaign. And so there will be goals listed that if we hit those different tiers, we'll get different things. And it is my understanding that one of those will be more races. So, and that more races are planned, but it's just that the guarantee is humans at the start. So,
Keep one of those character slots open.
yeah, I don't know how that'll all work. As fair as possible, I suppose. So,
Now, if we do have multiple characters, does that mean they could all be learning at once, or is it going to be like Eve, where only one can be?
I don't know. I brought that up the other day, and I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah. Well, I'm just throwing it out there for them.
Mm-hmm.
It's a point of discussion for the devs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and the way it works in Eve, it almost limits you to one character. It's just that your character has multiple personalities, but he can only one can have focus at any given time.
Actually, now, if you're willing to spend the money, you can have multiple training simultaneously.
And that's the same actually as multiple accounts.
Yeah.
So it's just that the convenience of one login and password to access them all. So, yeah. Okay. Well, let's move on. We'll let the NeoJack guys chew on that about characters, and they'll come up with what they think is right. And typically, so far from everything that I've heard from them, they're doing a great job of answering what we say we need and want. So, okay, let's talk about death. So, let me just start the conversation. Should death be permanent?
No.
No.
I agree.
You still should allow it. You might make a permadeath character.
Mm.
You might be a Care Bear and live in the city.
Well, one thing that you
It
could
should
do
not-
is
It shouldn't be
could
something you
make
can
a-
enable or disable it at any point when you're making
A-
a character you decide.
per se hardcore character, but he gets more experience and better
No.
loot.
No.
What was it? What was it? Path of Exile that had the hardcore characters, and they removed them because like less than 1% was playing them, or something like that. No, wait. It was War Z. Infestation. Yeah. So because there was no point, because in order to get out there and adventure around and stuff, you die. It happens.
A lot.
Now in Infestation, you lose everything.
Yeah.
And so should how do we feel about the death
XP loss.
penalty? Ooh, XP loss. Oh.
Not really fun when you get ganked or camped outside the city.
Yeah, okay, so I can just envision how many times I got killed in Eve because I became number one most wanted, and I had like this conga line behind me of people trying to catch me for my bounty. Golly, that would greatly upset me if I kept losing my skills. Because I was popular.
Well, what I think they should do is that whenever you spawn in, you should just have a little wrist, like a little glow, like towards you. In that case, you can just go out and kill whoever's camping you, and you have upper advantage. Yeah, spawn protection.
Yeah. Well, there may be a need for that anyway, depending on how that system works. One game where you had to go to a shrine, I think as long as you were standing on the shrine, you were invulnerable, but you also had nothing on you, absolutely nothing, and so it wasn't like you could sit there and shoot back at the other guys.
Make it a resurrection.
A resurrection, okay. and
Kind of like in D&D, where if you die, you can have them resurrect you, make it a flat cost for
Mhm.
resurrecting you, and you got to pay it in advance. Let's say you have a certain amount of resurrections built into each character, like part of your inheritance or something like that, and then at a certain point, you also gain some sort of advantage with resurrections. Say you do great deeds in the world or really horrible evil deeds, and your gods decide, oh, we're going to you helped our cause so much, we're going to give you more free resurrections. But you can also buy some. So if you die a lot, which sucks, and you run through your free resurrections, you can have them prepaid and ready to go.
Mm-hmm. This is I'm just trying to think, is this a method for the game to earn money?
Not real life cash. I'm talking in-game cash.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
But
It's basically a gold sink.
What happens if you run out of resurrections?
Well, you better be careful.
Then you go to a gold farmer and buy some gold with real money.
Well, you can't even do anything like buy resurrections if you're dead.
Yeah. I don't know, maybe have the party buy it for you or something. But there should be some sort of mechanic that makes sense for the world, you know?
Mm-hmm.
In Eve, you have clones. You zap back to your clone.
Mm-hmm.
In this, I mean, just having somebody respawn makes no sense, you know?
Mm-hmm.
It should be you wake up at the church and you're wearing your loincloth. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Yeah. So in Eve, you could mitigate it by buying a clone and buying your skill protection, and you had to buy that each time you died.
Yeah.
In Infestation, the other day, I died 40 times in one day. And if I had to go in and do the mechanic of buying that protection or that insurance or whatnot every time, it'd become very cumbersome. So I think that something like that depends on how often people actually get killed in the game.
Yeah.
Well, maybe it shouldn't be limited to X number of times of death, maybe per week. I'm protected for a week.
Oh, now that's an interesting thought. Yeah. So instead of it's like buying premium. There's some games where you can buy premium and then you have you could buy 1 day, you can buy a week, 30 days, a year.
Kind of like World of War Tanks.
A World of War Tanks. Yes, World of Tanks.
Oh, excuse me. I haven't played that game in a while either.
Yes, so World of Tanks is that way, and I actually like it. I ended up, I don't play it enough to get my money's worth, but I did buy a year subscription to that one. So, yeah. Okay, so.
I mean, at this point, we're just throwing out ideas. I want. I envision it as not something that's automatically free. Where I mean, you're losing your stuff. That's quite a loss there. I don't imagine skill points being lost because of it, but something like a resurrection or a reincarnation of some sort. Something that makes sense for the world is more my primary concern.
In Ultima Online, the way they had it was another player could resurrect you if they had the resurrection skill. Or you could find a healer and get resurrected, or you could go to a shrine. Shrines were known locations where you can get resurrected, or you could do an instant resurrection at the expense of some of your skills.
Ooh.
Yeah, and so if you really wanted to res right then and there, you could resurrect, but it cost you some of your skills. So not the whole things, just a percentage of what you had earned.
See, I like the idea of there being a character. I like the idea of characters being able to resurrect other characters.
Hmm.
I mean, that could be a mitigating factor in this.
They also typically had spirit speak, which was a skill of speaking to the dead. And everybody else, whenever you would talk, it'd just go, ooh, you know.
Yeah.
But yeah. So.
Well, I mean, there's a couple possibilities there. I mean, if you're resurrected by a player right there on site, then you maintain your stuff. So
Yeah, big bonus.
It gives people incentive to play that sort of character, because I would imagine that somebody that resurrects others probably doesn't have a lot of combat skills, kind of like a cleric sword, you know. But highly specialized healer / cleric, as a class, suddenly becomes viable and wanted profession.
Yeah.
Because there are people who just like to play healers. I've met players, they don't play any DPS people. All they play is healers in every game. So
there are some people who like the play style of just assisting, not being the front man, but they want to be in the back and just be part of the team, take less risk, but be helpful to the group.
Meat shields to the front.
Meat shields to the front. Oh, goodness. Jojo, you have an interesting thing here you're saying. Do you want to tell us about it?
I don't think she has a mic.
Oh, she doesn't have a mic. She's here without a mic.
I do.
Oh,
there she
okay.
is.
I just don't like interrupting people.
Well, go ahead. You have the floor.
Well, I've been playing MMO since Ultima Online myself, and I've seen so many different ways it's been done, but I noticed that some games, it's not your total experience that you've earned in the game, but it's like, say you died and you came back and you went on a killing spree or whatever, and you died again. It would take a portion of that experience you only earned in that short period. So it wouldn't, harm you in the long run, but it would still, I guess, be a penalty of sorts.
A penalty of the effort that you had just put in for like the last half hour or something like that.
Yes, exactly.
And that would mitigate the issue of worrying about, there is some risk to it. You'll have some loss of time, but you wouldn't be worried that if I died twice in a row, that my grandmaster skill that's at 100 or whatever, that that I was going to go down to from 99 to 98, and it was going to take me a month to get that back up to 100 again.
Yes.
And so once you obtain the highest level, you keep it too, I would think.
And you can't go negative. You don't lose what you've earned prior to that death.
Yeah. And that way too, if you get, if you're continually getting ganked or whatnot, well, so you're losing some time, but you're not losing the essence of your character where you've trained them up to and everything.
No, you can't go into the negative, but the good thing about that is going to prevent you from just running through mobs and be like, oh, whatever, I'm just going to run through these mobs, and if I die, I die, because there's no real penalty. But if you put a penalty into place, such as losing XP or whatnot, it's going to encourage people to, one, work together, and two, not just like ramble through mobs just to get somewhere. It's going to create that aspect of survival, because you don't want to die to lose what XP you've earned this level.
I think survival, by the way, is awesome. It is an awesome concept to be in the game. It's one of the reasons why I like Infestation so much, is because it's pretty hardcore on, you either figure it out or you fail really bad.
Or you buy hacks.
Well, that would be other people. So, yeah, that's another episode.
Yeah, we could have a long conversation on that.
Yeah, and that is on the agenda at some point to talk about prevention of stuff like that, that and botting and farming and stuff. So, okay, so Jojo, I really like your idea. To me, that sounds like a happy medium, to where you are losing something, like the last half hour of skill gain, but it won't put you back from prior. It might set you back to the point you were at the previous day, but if you live an hour and a half and then you die, you at least made a half hour of experience or an hour, something like that.
It gives you incentive. It's enough incentive to be careful about where you approach and how you approach.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's my primary concern with it, is not so much the method by which it's achieved as the game mechanic gives you an incentive not to do stupid things.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. We should be, if we have incentives to be responsible for our, virtual lives, that adds a really nice feel to the game. Community then watches out for each other too. Somebody else, you may not even know them, but they start getting, you notice that somebody else is getting really low on health, fighting something that they're over their head. You step in and help them because you know that they'll be grateful that that you did, because you've now given them something that's more than just, here's a heal. It's, here, I just saved your last hour of work.
Yeah.
Which gives it a lot more value.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I like that. How about looting? So, with, and specifically, when we die, what should happen to our stuff?
It's just drop on the ground.
All of it?
Not all of it.
Some of
Not
it?
all of it.
Some of it. Well,
I think
actually, it should be all of it.
That's creating. All I would do if that game was like that is level up a character and just go find lower levels and kill them. I wouldn't even take the loot. I would just kill them, because that whole aspect of I just lost everything that was in my backpack. So you're gonna create a paranoid community where everyone's like, oh, I just got this, I gotta run back and I gotta put this away, I gotta put this away. So all you're gonna create is people running back and forth after they kill somebody and get some form of good loot.
Well, that's not guaranteed. You're not guaranteed to get good loot.
No, but the second you get that good loot, your first reaction is, oh my god, I'm gonna die, somebody's gonna come and gank me. So what are you gonna do? You're gonna run back to town and store it.
Well, that's your prerogative.
I agree, but I think
kind of like an
losing,
infestation.
dropping everything though.
Dropping everything is probably a really bad idea, because you will have casters that main strength comes from a spell that cannot drop. And you have a sword user. He loses his sword, he's really in a bad position.
Well, that depends. I mean, if you get resurrected and you're in town, you go back to your house, you pick up another sword, or you go to the market, pick up another sword. Now, here's the flip side. If you have somebody in the party that can resurrect you right there, you lose nothing. You died. Your stuff didn't drop off of you, your stuff is on your body. Oh, wait a sec, you just got resurrected. You sit up, grab the sword that fell by your side, and continue the adventure.
I would say the equipment you're equipped currently should not drop.
Drop on release.
I disagree. I think if
Maybe
if you
drop
die,
on release a percentage, but not the legendary items, if there are gonna be any.
See, but that makes no sense. That makes no sense whatsoever. That's one of the reasons I don't play WoW. Seriously.
Actually, I was thinking of it from a RuneScape point of view, because RuneScape has that thing where you can save some of the items that when you die, but you can always go pick up the stuff on your tombstone or whatever the heck it was.
Right. Why don't they just have little banks, little mini banks in each city? In that case, you could put little items in there instead of losing it all.
Or your house.
Or you just,
Our house.
Yeah, your house.
What if
you could just have an enchantment on your gear of some kind that when you die, it's soul bound to you and it kind of follows you around with your spirit and then remanifests when you come back to life.
I'm fine with that.
See, the whole issue with dropping loot is bad luck.
Spirit binds.
There's a storm or something. My internet connection goes and I'm stuck in the server and I get ganked and I just lost my sword.
I think there
You
should
know how upset I would be.
I think there should be a different mechanic for disconnects.
Well, but
Well,
see,
they
people
can-
will just abuse that.
Possibly.
Yeah.
Not
I see
possibly,
it
it's
all the
gonna
time.
happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Alt
So
F4 issues.
yes.
Just make it so that if you really want to keep your gear, you can pay an enchanter to enchant it with soul follow or something.
Yeah.
and it's good. Otherwise,
Sure.
it drops.
I would be fine with that. That makes sense. But just, nothing dropping. Because if you have a legendary item and you have a way to ensure that item, basically, that it'll return to you, I'm fine with that. It'll probably, I think it should cost a lot.
Like, the issue I see with that is, for example, let's say you party up with some people, and it's a group of 5, and you're by yourself, and you randomly party with these people, and these 4 other people are part of the guild, and you kill a mob, and you get a roll, and you get that loot, and you're like, man, I just got the sword I was looking for. They unparty and kill you and take your loot.
Oh, sorry. Didn't mean to laugh out loud. That was funny though.
Well,
I mean,
that's why I don't
it's
trust
it's funny way after the fact. It's not funny when it happens to you. Yeah.
I think that's fine. Unless you are an enchanter that can enchant that item immediately.
Yeah, and the reality is, if you're dumb enough to tell them what you got, then you probably deserve to get killed.
No, but if it's a roll system, they're going to see what the item is when they
Yeah,
roll for it.
Yeah, we'll just
Or-
have to work
or
it
if-
out so that you can do that without people knowing what you got. I mean,
Or if we see the loot on the ground and we all run for it and bang our heads against each other trying to grab it,
Killing everyone instantly.
you know what?
that sounds funny actually.
If you get
It's
something and you think
funny.
people are going to kill you, you're just going to disconnect, and that's
But
it. It's okay.
But it depends on the type of game you're trying to create. If you're trying to create a community where people are helping each other and working together to achieve common goals, this is not something you want to implement into the
go
game.
go with your friends then. Don't go with a random pug.
No, but
What's
for
fun?
example, let's say I work from home, right? I'm a streamer. And let's say I'm not streaming and I'm playing late at night and all my buddies are in bed because they got to go to work next day, but I want to play. I'm going to play the game, right? And then the only way to progress is by grouping with random people. Then I'm not going to play the game because I'm going to be like, well, what's the point? So you're going to pull certain people to the game, but you're going to be pushing away a lot more, I feel.
But I mean, the thing is that if you're going with people that you don't really know or trust into a dungeon, and you happen, I mean, in real life, okay, let's say this happened in real life, and you happen to find something that's really good, you should be eyeing those other people that might be looking at you to kill you for your stuff. Does that make sense?
I think that there's
Puts you on edge.
a kind of I like the fear, I like the risk, and I also like what Yeti's saying that he doesn't want to just be limited to playing with just the friends he trusts. He wants to be able to play and get benefit from people he doesn't know. And I think that's also part of how we build community and how we get to know one another. And a mechanic really could be as simple as, when an item is looted, that there's whatever, a 10-minute period or something like that where or maybe that if an item is looted and that there's a whatever time period that if you're killed by another player that it can't be taken, that it's automatically bound as loot that you just picked up. But if you're killed by a monster, then maybe it's fair game. And that would alleviate Yeti's objection. Say again?
I'm disagreeing with you. I was just thinking that, like, what if it was a system like where if you pick it up, it's bound to you for about 10 minutes. If you die, it drops, but no one can pick it up except for you.
No, that doesn't make sense.
That's how it is in Infestation. Well, no, I guess
Infestation, you
really.
drop it.
you drop it, anybody can pick it up. I was just thinking about how many times I've run back to my dead body to pick up my stuff, and it disappears right as I arrive.
Why don't you just make it so anything that drops that's actually good, like at a certain rarity level or higher, automatically comes with like 30 minutes of soul follow, and then it expires.
Or the players can make it with that built in.
Oh, no, I got it. You take a soul follow with you.
Yeah,
cast
that way
a scroll.
Yeah, that's right. And then you can bind it
Yeah.
right to your weapon.
Yeah, then it's a scroll, and you can bless it right then and there. And you you soul follow your soul follow scroll because they're very expensive. And when you die in the dungeon, you don't want to lose it.
Well, that adds a whole different level of complexity that players can play in. I'm fine with that. I just want it to make sense. I find a weapon, I don't even know what it is. Okay.
True.
I have
Who
no
says
way
we're
to
going to
identify
know what the crap is?
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty sword, big whoop-de-doo. It could just be a pretty sword. Or
Pretty
it
sort
could
of
be...
cheese slicing.
Yeah, but you don't know that until somebody's identified it for you.
Well,
That's the other aspect.
Yeah, if you're high enough and you have a high enough skill on identifying things, you might be able to determine that right away.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean everybody else has the skill level to identify it.
No, but if
You
do,
could
and
say,
you have
"Oh, this is a crap sword. I'll take it and sell it for scrap metal."
Yeah.
It just happens to be a +10 vorpal sword that's cursed. Because that's an aspect of this game. You can identify general objects, or if you have the skill, you can get more specific. But if you don't have the skill, you're relying on other people. And they can tell you whatever they want about it, whether it's a crap sword or a cursed item or whatever. But unless you have the ability to do it or pay somebody to do it, you never know.
I have a question. We have only been watching, talking about the one side, I got killed, my stuff maybe got taken. What's going to happen to the player that killed me? What sort of a punishment he takes for killing me?
I think he should be able to take it all. He killed you for it.
No, I mean, he killed me. There was nothing to do. I wasn't able to do anything about it. He took my stuff. He didn't. Can he do whatever he feels
He was like
previously
infamy and
before
stuff
killing
like that.
me? No,
I think
he
that
killed
depends.
someone.
I think that depends on the player and whether he's, a good guy or a bad guy, or however this ends up working out. I mean, frankly,
we haven't
I
really
want
discussed
players.
that portion yet.
Yeah,
I think
wanted
that's
to-
another portion of that's another topic of what should be incentives and disincentives to player versus player.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's very appropriate, and other times it may be deemed not appropriate.
Well, if you're griefing somebody, maybe you get a flag on you that says this person is whatever, and it's like a curse that gives them a negative buff, and everyone just piles on them at that point.
Mm-hmm.
Or maybe, for instance, it depends on where you do it. If you backstab somebody in a dungeon, the constable isn't going to come pick you up at the edge of the at the entrance to the dungeon. However, if you kill somebody in the middle of town square while 30 guards are watching you, there's going to be an immediate response. That's why they're paid there, is to guard and make sure that the peace is kept. And if somebody starts a fight in the middle of the town square, the guard should come and whack them. It makes perfect sense for that.
I also think that if another player kills me, that as long, I don't know how the where the safe areas will be, if there are safe areas. I mean, we've talked about that our homes would be safe, but am I safe at the bank? Am I safe at the dungeon? Am I safe at just one continent? There's been a bunch of different ways that it's been addressed before. But I myself, I like a lot of risk, and I think that someone should be able to kill me even if they're clever, and they should be able to get something for the kill. Just like if I decide to play super evil and just kill everyone, I should get something for that.
Well, what if you don't do loot, but you do a PvP experience, which you can use that experience to buy certain weapons or armor or scrolls or whatnot, and you also get their gold. Whatever gold they have on them is 100% lootable. So you would get PvP experience, which you can use at the PvP store, and buy gear and stuff like that, and you get all the gold that was on that person. Because in all honesty, I'm not going to play a game where I can spend hours and hours grinding to get a certain weapon, and then I go out and I get killed and I lose it. Like, to me, because I'm a casual MMO player, like, I'm not one of those hardcore guys that plays 20 hours a day. But if I'm playing, okay, there should be some, loss to being killed, but I don't think I should be losing gear that I worked for.
Mm-hmm.
You can just soul follow your gear. I mean, it's a mechanic that you have in place. Otherwise, if it's just random green drops or rather simple drops, then I mean, what difference does it make if you lose it? I mean, that doesn't cost much anyway.
Actually,
Very
you
true.
had another idea. You can only limit like 5 soulbound items per character, and you can hold like, let's say, random number 8 items on your equipment. So
Yeah.
some of them might drop.
It gives you
It
incentive.
just depends on whenever you kill them.
But I mean, if you kill somebody and their equipment drops, why wouldn't you be able to pick it up? I mean, is that what you guys are suggesting, that you can't pick up just pick up whatever's
No.
dropped?
Yeah.
I was saying if you're willing to spend the money on, if you have a high value item that you want to always be on your person, give people the option of setting up a spell where it can be bound to your character. So if you die, that item just pops back with your character when you get resurrected.
Yeah, sure.
That
That's
way,
a great idea.
if you don't want to risk something, or you don't have something soulbound, then you're not going to take and do stupid things and lose it. If it is soulbound, you'll take more chances. So it kind of changes the dynamics of combat too, because you know what the sword is, you know it's valuable, you know that if anybody else finds out you have the sword or what it is, they'll try to take it from you. By soulbinding it, all of a sudden, it doesn't drop with the rest of your stuff.
And the
The
alternative.
soulbind also might be time-based, lasts only for a fixed amount of time.
Yeah,
And then
there
you
might
have
be
to-
a cheaper one would be like you can buy a 1 day, or 1 week, or infinite, and just the cost is
No,
something like
it
that.
shouldn't be infinite.
Well,
Hour-based?
putting a permanent
Hour-based.
enchant on something. Then. It's like a permanent enchant.
Well, maybe, what about this? The more better the item, like a legendary, the more it costs.
Mm-hmm. And it could be that the like a soulbound enchantment would only be in effect for each time you die, and you have that with you, and then it has to be enchanted again, and then you lower the barrier of cost for that because it has to be applied each time.
So it
And
makes people really think about what they take out into the wilderness every time.
yeah, it's a balancing act. I mean, which is better? Okay, let me ask a question. Which is better for fun? Because we're playing these games for fun. If they're not fun, we're not playing. Of course, there's a much bigger experience to it all, but which way do we go? So we're having fun.
I like the idea of risk.
Mm-hmm.
I also
It's
like the
meaningless.
idea.
I agree.
More risk, more fun.
Yeah.
Not always fun. Let's say you're playing at odd hours on your server and it's nighttime, and there's no enchantment player online, but you really want to go out, and
Risk.
you're pretty much stuck.
Yeah, but you're gonna limit, like, a lot of you guys like the idea of risk, but there's a lot of people who don't. You're trying to make a game that's balanced, that appeals to everybody. So I understand your point of view. Like, trust me, in certain games I love that risk factor, but in an MMO where you're spending hours and hours and hours grinding to get this gear and stuff, and like you said, maybe there's no enchanter online, you're not an enchanter, they're gonna be like, oh well, I'm done for the night. So basically you're cutting off playtime for people.
Mm-hmm.
No, just
Well-
make it so that an enchanter can enchant the scroll that you can buy on the trading post or whatever.
Yeah, sell the scrolls on trading post or something.
Yeah.
Maybe make an NPC sell them, but at a increased price.
The idea is making them available 100% of the time without having more than one method of acquiring the ability. I think is important. Like going with a scroll, which you have in your house. You had an enchanter while they were online make you a scroll, which you can use at any time, or get it from an NPC shop that's still open, that hasn't been put out of business by players yet. Stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I would prefer a world open enough where you can get anything you want, but it might not necessarily be from the same place.
Mm-hmm.
Or what you can do is you can have a server where it's kind of like a hardcore server where your character is not deleted, but you can drop items.
The
And you
game
can have
doesn't
a more-
have servers.
Yeah,
The
it's gonna
game
be,
is
it's gonna be
big
one world.
It's
Yeah.
going to be a sandbox, yeah. That's for sure.
There is another way of thinking about this might be that that it's a risk reward thing, and so you have this really fabulous sword or whatever, and you don't want to risk it. So what are you willing to give up in order to guarantee that you don't lose that sword? Are you willing to give up, your bonus on loot drops, that loot has a higher chance of having something fantastic in it if you take more risk, and the same thing could be with PvP if there was well, maybe not, but I'm just thinking about monsters that are like dynamic, that when you're they're fighting them. When they drop the loot, it's whatever the server makes of it, whatever the algorithm is, and if I'm willing to take more risk that I could lose my sword, then maybe I can be rewarded with, a 10% increase in rares or whatever.
Well, normally how you could do that is you would have a limited number of enchantment slots on your gear. So if you put Soulbound on one in a slot, that means you're not putting something else in there, like a 10% increase of this or whatever.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You're right. And I think that's a successful method. I mean, I've seen that in several games, and I think it's a very acceptable method. And so these would be like soul stones, soul gems or whatever, and they might cost a lot, but they can be popped out and put into something else or whatever. I don't know, or
What game is that has those gems that you can pop out of armor when you're changing armor? You can put them into something else.
That's Diablo 3.
Yeah.
No, I'm thinking of another game. I would say
Path-
Diablo.
Path of
I realized
Exile.
that. Terra, there we go.
Terra.
They have these retarded gems that give you stats or MP regen and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
You can pop them out and put them in different pieces of armor or weapons, and there's depending on the quality of the armors, there's these amount of slots. It's up to 4 or something like that.
Yeah. And then we have the skill of gemology.
Yeah,
So
absolutely.
somebody who procures and identifies gems. So
See, I think just everything should drop. I got to pay my monsters,
Well, I mean, if you're really averse to risk, there needs to be a way in the system that you can kind of run the game with very little risk. But you have to pay for it somehow. And if you have to give up, 10% magic find on all of your gear in order to get that, or whatever it is, the buff it is that you would have picked otherwise, then I think that's acceptable, because that gives the people who don't want that to mitigate that risk that much more benefit.
See, but I think more of the world should be a static world where your the amount of risk you're willing to put into something does not actually play into what's going on in the world. I could see, if you don't want to risk something, doing something like a soul bind on everything you own for a limited time, or a specific item, or till you die, or something like that, and just having it really a cheap skill to get or purchase. I think competition from different sources will take care of the costing on it, but I don't think it should affect what's dropped. I think what's dropped should be static regardless. So if I send out a bunch of orcs with +1 swords and some decent orc armor to wipe out a player party in my dungeon, that's what you get when they die.
Level 1 stuff.
Or +1 stuff, or magic items, whatever I send them out with. Because sometimes you will run across monsters that have no loot. A great example of this in D&D is rust monsters. they don't pose any actual direct damage to the players. However, it'll eat your weapons and armor. You know, so there's suddenly a risk to the weapons and armor. But that's, you know, that particular monster doesn't really carry any loot. You know, it's just a mindless eating machine.
Yeah, I don't think that it makes sense for you to be like killing a goblin and then somehow you get a gear from the goblin that's better than he was actually using. That doesn't make any sense.
That's true.
I want wanting the world as a mechanic to make sense. I mean, there's no relation between your willingness to risk something and the rest of the universe. The rest of the universe will just laugh at you and go, dumbass.
Yeah. Okay, well, I think we've come up with a lot of good ideas here and give the New Jack guys a lot to chew on. I think I've heard a few winning ideas today, that's for sure. So that is pretty much our show for today. Tomorrow is going to be travel and transportation. Ooh. So get your horse and buggy out, or your mule-drawn cart to ferry your goods, or if you're a mage, your teleportation skills.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's going to be the topic tomorrow. So think about that and come prepared. And then we haven't set the topics for the rest of the week yet, but we will soon. And or actually, did we? Oh yes, Thursday is Tools for Content. People like Yeti and I, who do a lot of streaming, and other people who do a lot of YouTube stuff, we want to talk about what kind of tools can be put into the game to make it easier to share content and make great content. So that's it for today, and thank you, everybody. I appreciate you coming, and same time, same place tomorrow. Take care, everybody.
See ya.
You too. Have a good day.
See you, Marky.
Yeah.
See ya.